Hello and welcome to your Patreon exclusive episode of Predictocast for the month of June. We are here. This is Josh, by the way, and Skinner, you know. Hey, Skinner.
Oh, yeah, I'm here too. I'm here. Welcome to Butterfly Kisses.
You know, Skinner is a name that would work pretty well in this movie.
Yeah, I was kind of waiting for one, like a skinhead character who we call Skinner.
Well, as chosen by you, the Patreon supporters, we are talking about the 1991 Brian Bosworth action classic Stone Cold. This is one of my favorite dumb action movies. It's so stupid, and I genuinely kind of love it. As dumb and as like problematic as it is today, I still kind of love it because it's just so stupid.
I think where I came to it later, and it's more squarely in the problematic part, I didn't enjoy it nearly as much as I would have maybe a couple years ago, or as much as you do.
That's fair.
Like some of the crazy things they do, as far as like, There's times watching this movie where I'm like, okay, how the fuck did they spend $25 million in this movie? And then the shit that will blow up, I'm like, oh, right. They blew so much up. And I really appreciate how much shit blows up. I really appreciate what Lance Henriksen's doing. He's too good for this movie.
Oh, he's much better than this movie deserves.
Could you imagine being Lance Henriksen and William Forsythe and just like, okay, we're playing second fiddle to Brian the Bosworth in this movie. Like, we have to make him look like he's cooler than us.
Yeah,
that's real fun. There's still little things I like about it as far as that kind of early 90s, late 80s thing. It's just the trappings of it. I'm just really not in the mood for cops who, you know, go over the line versus white supremacists going onto political capitals and with automatic rifles.
Yeah,
and everything.
You know, like this is a movie that we had actually put up the poll for, and it was pretty clear that this was going to be the winner. Like, this was late last month. So this was even before kind of everything started going on. Not that you know, this all started this month or whatever. It's been going on for basically as long as there have been police, but it is kind of weird that this is the movie that we're talking about this month after everything that's going on, and it is so focused on a cop who starts the movie being in trouble because he has been too rough with suspects and is mad about it, which is very weirdly paralleling the world that we are currently in, with cops calling out sick and refusing to answer calls because they're pissed off that other cops can't get away with murdering people. And that it's about him infiltrating a white supremacist group that wants to kill a bunch of political members, which feels very connected to today. And it's weird. This isn't, again, a movie from 1991. And like, I think that because I came to it so many years ago and I had heard all these things about it, and I think I first saw this probably like mid 2000s ish, maybe. So even well after it had come out, but like, yeah, it is weird that this is all the stuff that they're doing is still kind of connected to the world today, and it is weird that we are talking about it this month. So I can get how it might not totally sit right with you.
I think where it's just kind of, your mind kind of goes when watching it, as far as like the white supremacist gang is like, here's this white supremacist gang who hates the politicians, has some ins with the police, but is still fighting the police, as opposed to the politicians actively courting them.
Yeah.
In Mississippi.
Yeah, it also takes place in Mississippi, my home state, which is recently in the news. My hometown even is in the news because of some really awful horribly racist comments from one of the county supervisors in regards to taking down a Confederate statue. And he just said some of the worst shit that you could imagine a person saying. And it's, been picked. This
the
was
worst.
By the time you're hearing this episode, this was like last week. So it's been picked up by the AP and it's kind of gotten around to various places. And I'm sure maybe even by this point, the time that you're hearing the episode, it's even gotten other places. But yeah, it's it's weird to now think about it in terms of that too, that it's taking place in this state where, even today there are still some pretty rough racial divides, and it's,
so when did these bikers go from guys wearing Nazi symbols and hating authority to like wearing Nazi symbols and also thin blue line flags?
Yeah, I don't know, because there are some legit Nazi flags in this movie.
They're straight up a Nazi flag.
Yeah,
and then a kid pushing a stroller. Because fucking it's crazy.
The Brotherhood, which is the name of the biker gang, like they have like SS lightning bolts on their logo.
Oh, don't worry. I'm told by the internet that a lot of people just don't know what that SS means. They assume it means some sniper squad thing, and it's a military tattoo. Don't worry about it. They're just patriots. They didn't know that it's the two S's from the KISS symbol.
Yeah,
and they just picked those. The KI didn't matter as much, but those two S's. We've always known, and the people who wear them always have known what that SS stands for. Trust me. Do not worry.
Yeah.
They're not doing that by mistake.
No, and I think it is interesting too that we're talking about this month, but also that there is in this movie, there is that clear divide between us thinking that, Joe Huff, our main character who goes undercover as John Stone, that he is the good guy and he's there to stop these bad guys, these, sort of white supremacist dudes, which never really comes up in the movie. They never really lean into the white supremacy angle as hard as you might expect them to, especially with it being set in the South. Like they use some derogatory terms for Italians a couple times, but like it's really minor considering what it could have been.
Considering like their colors are specifically very racist. Like his flag, Chains Cooper's flag. I can use his full name, Mr. Cooper, Lance Henderson's character. Like their cut is explicitly like 500 racist white supremacist symbols in one thing.
Yeah,
it's all of them.
Yeah,
but like it's weird because it comes off like these white supremacist biker killers, their main enemy that they hate is a white politician or want to be politician.
Yeah, because the politician wants to prosecute them for their criminal activity,
which they would never do.
No, they would be fine with it, I guess. It's a weird mishmash of things. It's not that they want to like impose some sort of weird white power thing and get rid of all these other races, because they're like willing to work with the Italian gang that doesn't like them. Like they treat that whole aspect like it's just a weird gang war kind of turf battle, like, oh, you're in our turf taking our money and we're mad at you. But it doesn't seem to have anything necessarily based in race. And the fact that the lead guy that they're opposed to in the government is a white guy does seem weird. And I wonder if something must have been changed, perhaps, because like they don't make any bones about the fact that they are this racist sort of Nazi ideology group, but like they still also don't play up the racial angle. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very weird. And I have two thoughts before we start getting the plot of this movie, because there's so much amazing plot in here.
Can't tell if that's sarcasm or not.
What are we going to call the boss's character when we speak of him? Are we going to call him Joe Huff or are we going to call him John Stone?
I think Stone.
Because the movie is not... Yeah, I think Stone too, because the movie's not called Huff Cold.
It's not called Huffing Around.
It's called Stone Cold, after his fake name.
Oh, it could have been called Huffin' Stones.
Huffin' Stones. Meet Joe Huff.
You won't believe what kids these days are doing. It's called stone huffing.
They do it at rainbow parties. We're not worried about those anymore, are we?
Those never
I just want to
existed.
put that out there in this world where everything's gone wrong. Rainbow parties, don't worry about them.
All right.
They never really existed.
Well,
the other thing I want to question
yes.
is, as a very overarching question before we get into the nitty gritty of this.
Okay.
What did Stone accomplish?
He did not accomplish anything. In fact, he failed miserably. The bad guys win in this one. They just die after they win.
And they would have anyways. You could not do what they did and not, they don't leave there fine. If you do what they did, it's so incredibly overwhelming what they do, they would be hunted to the end of the earth.
Yeah, it would be hard. They would be hard pressed to because again, we are presented the sort of the law enforcement side of it as the right, as the heroes, not the political right, even though I know that is did not intend that pun. But we're presented them because at the end, the National Guard is there and they are helping to stop these bad biker guys. They are not, shooting the hostages or whatever it is they do. So yeah, I don't know. It feels like even if Stone hadn't been involved, they still would have all been killed.
Yeah, he doesn't stop them from doing what their entire plan is. His plan to kind of catch them in a drug deal or whatever doesn't work out. They get to the place they want to go. They kill everyone they want to kill. It's just in the end that Stone catches James, and then also even that goes wrong. So really, the ending, which is kind of amazing, how long it plays out.
Yeah.
That last few scenes, it's a whole moment of why did he do any of that?
Before we get into the the movie proper, I do want to talk about the director, Craig R. Baxley. He's directed quite a few movies. He's done a ton of stunt work. He started his career in Hollywood as a stunt coordinator and as a stunt performer. He did a lot of stunt work in Predator, 21 Jump Street, the television series, the A-Team, the Dukes of Hazzard. He was around for a lot of big stunt stuff in television and film. And then he kind of moved into directing, and he's done a couple of movies that have sort of a similar template, and I'm including Stone Cold in this. Basically in a 4-year span, he released 3 movies that feel very similar in a way, in sort of their kind of core format almost. So in '88, he directed Action Jackson with Carl Weathers, which is about a cop going against a bad guy. Of course, we had a lot of those movies in the 90s. In 1990, he directed Dark Angel, also known as I Come in Peace, with Dolph Lundgren as a cop fighting an alien who has come to suck some weird liquids out of people because it's a weird drug in some weird galaxy. And then the next year he did this movie, which is about a cop fighting a biker gang. And he's got this weird template of these 3 that are all really interesting. And I watched all of them kind of close to one another because I was like, oh, this movie's cool. I need to see what else he did. And then I watched that. And then I watched, the next thing. And it's interesting, I think, because you can see sort of the stunt man eye in those movies because they all have big action moments, and this one especially has some insane action. Stuff blows up constantly. There's explosions all over the place.
There's like explosions when there's absolutely no particular reason why there would be an explosion.
Yes. Yeah, there is a lot of senseless violence. So we can kind of go through the plot a little bit. It's a weird time. You have set up exactly why you had issues with this movie. I'm not going to say that people should watch it if they don't feel comfortable with that. And honestly, as a show, you and I have even talked about not covering movies that like glorify the police, trying to avoid those kinds of things because it feels distasteful right now. And looking at sort of how much media has been like that we've all consumed that is basically about how good the cops are is kind of staggering. Like that seems to be the majority of media it's been that way for a long time.
What is more depressing about it is a lot of these movies, especially action movies, but like, movies like just like of where if there are bad cops, they're cops that are crooked in a business way, and the cops that go on the street and are more violent are actually the ones who are the true heroes.
Yeah,
like the ones who like not because they like crookedness comes from being unwilling to take that extra step. Like if you want to be a real cop, you want to be a real hero, and you don't care about this red tape that bureaucracy is put upon you. Like that bureaucracy is part of the corruption, as opposed to the violence being part of the corruption. Like there's nothing about Mr. Joe Huff here that tells me that his judgment is so good, because he fucking fails this movie. He fucking is good at nothing except for being strong. That tells me like in a moment of judgment, he can make the right call in a heated moment as far as who is guilty and who is innocent, and he just wants to punch somebody. And a lot of movies do that. Like we're like, oh, like you guys behind your desks are all weasels, but I'm out here and I'm not, I'm not afraid of the paperwork. I'm gonna punch crooks in the face. Like crooks don't wear fucking shirts that say crooks. Crooks aren't always fucking, white supremacists who you actually are probably in the police force, who have colors and tell you this. Like this movie today, like if you wanted to make it real, these would be fucking not like just bikers who are super tough and dealing drugs. Be fucking weird boogaloo kids wearing fucking Hawaiian shirts on Reddit.
Yeah,
he'd go to their fucking mom's basement to fucking infiltrate them. And he'd be the only guy over 5'8" in the whole fucking building.
Yeah, the twist in this movie, if it were made today, would be that like, oh, it turns out that the reason this gang hasn't been busted is because they've been working with the cops in the town the entire time, and everybody's involved in the violence,
including Donald Trump Jr.
So what I was going to say though is that like I can't recommend that anyone watch this movie if they would feel uncomfortable by that. I can't say like, oh, if you've never seen this, you have to see it, because I understand that it is glorifying a thing that we are trying to not glorify as much in our show, and just try not to consume that kind of media. And I imagine that as time goes on, we will see fewer films and television shows that are focusing on law enforcement as like main characters or as quintessential good guys.
Doctor shows.
Yeah,
sexy
doctor shows. Let's get some more firefighter shows on television. Let's get some more
EMTs.
Insurance investigators shows on television.
Insurance investigators. They can flirt with everybody, and they don't have like. And you can vaguely make them almost law enforcement, even though they work for insurance companies. I would not think they would have any immunity to anything.
Yeah, that's a reference to our Lady Ice episodes that dropped this week. So go listen to those in the main feed if you haven't already. So, Stone Cold, Lady Ice. That's a good pairing. I'm glad that we put this out the same week.
I'm glad you got some kind of theme in somehow, because I know it was tough on you to not do a theme this month, as we were recording certain things out of order, and we didn't want to promise something and then not have it match later.
So yeah, let's kind of go through this plot a little bit.
Let's talk about this lizard. My friend, this lizard's not enough in this movie.
No.
As soon as he becomes Stone Cold Steve Austin, he no longer has the lizard in the movie. And that's stupid. This lizard's awesome. It's so much charisma.
That is a little disappointing. So we have the amazing grocery store opening, which a nice little plug here. If you haven't checked it out on our YouTube channel, we have a opening commentary track where we talk about the opening scene of the movie up there on YouTube. You can watch the video play out with our dulcet tones overlaid on it. We'll actually put a link to that video in the description of this episode. We just thought it would be a fun little thing to do because this movie is so wacky and there's so much crazy shit happening in it at all times. But we have this opening bit where this group of guys is robbing this grocery store at like 9:30 at night, and there's still a lot of people in it.
Super into it, and they're. I mean, we never know or told explicitly that they're tweaking. The main guy is so overly hyped. He appears to be smelling the air for the boss.
Oh,
when
yes.
He comes in there. Like he's detecting like the faint smell of steroids off him.
Yeah, I think actually there is. I think Brian Bosworth did admit to taking steroids when he was a football player, and then I think he lost some awards or something because of it. So you're accurate.
Now, could you like at any point were you imagining watching this like thinking like, now if they gave John Cena a mullet wig, he could do a lot of this.
Yeah, let's see a Stone Cold sequel with John Cena.
With John Cena and the wig. The wig is very important.
This crazy two-tone mullet. Like, so I think that the opening was shot after the beginning of the movie because his hair is different.
Production problems.
Yeah.
Yes. Because originally I read that they spent like $4 million making this whole backstory of his family, like wife and kids.
Oh boy!
And then they changed directors and they dropped all of it.
Yeah, because he is single, I guess.
Well, I mean, he has that lady in the bed. We'll get to the lady in the bed, but yeah, like there's it. We're never told who Joe Huff is ever. Like, there's nothing to him. He's just burly.
Yeah, and
but like his hair is his personality. And I want to say that like there's a specific scene where it's at its finest, because when he's out and about being a biker, it's kind of dirty, it's kind of wet, it's kind of sweaty, it's kind of
I think
down.
I know exactly what you're gonna say.
But when he goes to the club,
yes,
and it's so bouffant, and it's blonder, and he's got this button-up shirt to his
that
his
shirt
Adam's
looked
apple.
like the idea of the early 90s. Like, it looked like the early 90s idea of what 2020 clothing would look like.
Like, all I could think of is like it would be so uncomfortable on his throat. I didn't have muscles on his throat, right? Wouldn't the buttons be like going into his trachea?
Do you know what it looks like? It looks like, so if you remember, let's all flash back to the first Men in Black movie, and they're wearing very traditional black suits for the majority of that film. But at the very end of that movie, when Will Smith is sort of taken over and moved up to be the new like head agent, he puts his cooler glasses on, and his black suit is not a traditional black suit anymore. It's got this weird kind of collar going on, and that's exactly what John Stone is wearing when he's in that club in Florida.
It's amazing. Like, and his hair is so, it's taken care of at this point. Like, it's just like he took a small comb and like kind of individually different segments of his hair, made sure they're at their fluffiest. It's because like he's had a two-tone multi the entire time.
Yeah.
But like all of a sudden it's like, oh, look at that. Look, your hair's been awful this whole movie, but I can't, like, all of a sudden I could not stop watching. Like the entire, I don't know. I lost the entire thread of what was going on at that point because his hair, like his hair in that shirt, I don't know what that part was about. I don't know the name of the guy he beat up. I don't know what he's doing there. I have no idea.
I'll explain it to you. But yeah,
do never explain it to me. Just let's just talk about his hair some more.
But I think the grocery store opening must have been filmed after the rest of the movie because his hair is noticeably longer, and it's longer than it is in the rest of the film. Like it's a pretty impressive mullet throughout, but in the opening, it feels like it's gotten a lot longer and it's a lot darker on the sides too. Like he went in and touched it up, I guess. But
he went in there and like, make me look like a jackass, please.
But yeah, so he enters into this grocery store while these guys are freaking out and trying to rob the place. And he has got on this insane jacket with these crazy, like, pointy shoulder pads. I don't even know.
He never dresses like this the rest of the movie.
That's why I think that it's so disconnected. Like they're trying to set up who he is, but like you said, they do a terrible job of it because obviously this must have been where there was some family stuff or something, and they just try to set him up as this badass, I guess. But like they could have. We hear later in the movie that he has bagged the most motorcycle gang-related arrests in Alabama. So why not start the movie with him, like, bagging a motorcycle gang, stopping a motorcycle gang from doing something? Have a cool action sequence where he's riding a motorcycle right at the beginning.
I was trying to figure out when the FBI come up to him after this scene and are like, oh, you're on 3 weeks suspension, which, by the way, he's only on 3 weeks suspension. That's not very much. And they're like, for, being too aggressive or whatever.
Yeah, he must have killed 3 or 4 people to get that 3-week suspension.
But all we've seen is him do this grocery store scene. So like, I felt like, is he under? Because when the police show up,
he was suspended when he did that.
Okay, because the police were mad at him then. I'm like, what was he supposed to do? He was sitting there and someone walked up and put a gun in his face. Like he literally was just getting groceries and the grocery store was being robbed.
Yeah, it seems weird because the way that scene is cut, it feels like he has entered the grocery store after the robbery has started, yet they don't see him come into the grocery store. Like they're at the front of the store.
He's also gigantic. Like
yeah,
this movie This movie is weird in that, and I'll talk about this quite a bit throughout the episode. No one seems to notice how gigantic he is. Did you ever get that feeling? Like everyone keeps challenging him and then are surprised that he is powerful?
Yeah,
when he's about a foot taller than everybody and about a foot wider than everybody.
Yeah, there's literally only one guy who is like legitimately bigger than him, and he still beats that guy in a fight. So but like everybody else does kind of square up to him, and it's like, this dude is huge. Like if Brian Bosworth wanted to, he could probably have crushed Lance Henriksen into dust, but
what he finally does at the end, like he just like finally when they finally square off and it's an actual fight, like he just knocks his gun away and beats the shit out of him.
That was my favorite part when he's like looking for him and he looks into the courtroom and everyone's dead and he goes, "Welcome to my slaughterhouse," and he immediately gets punched in the face and thrown on the ground.
He sets it up like, you've fallen into my trap, and he's like, nah. And by the way, like he's big enough where like I'm looking at a picture of him right now from 2005.
I'm always looking at a picture of him.
I'm always looking at a picture of him from 2005. It's Brian Bosworth with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and they're about the same size. They're big dudes. In case you were wondering if the star of Stone Cold had ever starred with Stone Cold, yes, he has.
I wonder if they talked about that. Hey, I was in a movie called Stone Cold. What you think about that? Well, I don't like it, brother. Wait, that's not Stone Cold.
That's Hulk Hogan, who must have walked into the room. He's like, I was a big fan of Lance Henderson's character.
I'm also a racist, brother.
Hanging and banging, brother. We hung and bunged.
Oh God.
There's an actual if you ever want to go out there is an interview where Hulk Hogan says, we were hanging and banging, and we hung and bunged.
Wow. God. All right. So he
hung and bung.
He quickly dispatches two of the guys. We won't go through it because I really, you should go and watch our commentary. It's we're pretty thorough. When we go through the whole scene, you can watch it play out. But we do have to talk about the guy who, the final guy who gets freaked out when Stone throws a can of beans, and he goes and he runs, and Stone has, I guess, conveniently, I don't know if this is just from them shooting up the place or if Stone broke
like he did nothing, honest to God.
Yeah. And the guy, it's like steps into like a broken bottle of olive oil and just flies ass first into a end cap display of Coca-Cola. It's impressive.
Because this is a practical effect, because you couldn't do any other way. And he literally, some human being leapt as hard and as high as possible to land taint first into a giant pile of Coca-Cola cans.
I wonder how they did that. Like, I would love a behind the scenes video of them showing that stunt, because that's what makes it fun to think about like, oh, this was directed by a guy who did a lot of stunts, so he knew how to set these things up probably safely, and also like to make them look really good. So like, what did that look like? How did that guy get that air? Did he jump off of a platform? Did he like, was there some sort of like a treadmill band that like pushed him off into the air so he could get some speed? Like, how did he do that?
I mean, he got really high. It's very impressive. I like, every time I end up watching it twice, and both times all I can think of is like, that's an actual human being doing that. What a weird thing to do.
There's an equally impressive jump like that in a movie called Trick or Treat. I can't remember the year. I think 1989 or 6. I can't remember, but it's about a guy who gets a record, and an evil rock and roll star who died comes back to life and causes havoc. But there's a point where some bullies are chasing this kid, and he has like greased up an area, and one of them, it's the same thing. He goes flying out of a door down a stairwell and might as well be paralyzed.
I mean, that's the like untold story that we never, because this group of people who robbed this grocery store aren't villains in the movie. They're just in this one. Yeah,
they're just, this is a cold open to set us up.
But like we can assume that guy's in traction.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Or at least he's lost feeling below the taint, which he has broken.
Definitely. So at this point, we get our little opening credit sequence, which contains lots of explosions. We have we introduced to the biker gang. They're kind of going off on their biker errands for that day, of which includes them killing a priest. He is in the middle. He's in the middle of doing a baptism or a christening when this guy shows up between the family who are holding their child and points a shotgun at this priest, who looks very disturbed and confused, and then is blasted through a stained glass window, on the other side of which you can see the bikers just hanging out waiting for this guy to come out the window.
Yeah, that's why where else are you going to wait? Can't wait. You can't bring motorcycles into a building until much later.
Do you know who that priest was?
Who was that priest?
So that priest was from a pretty classic episode of Mystery Science Theater. There is the episode of Merlin's Shop of Mystical Wonders. He is the guy who gets Merlin's book and tries to make himself young, but ends up turning himself into a baby.
Oh yeah, that happens in my often in life.
But that guy, he's there
all his time.
Yeah, he's there just to get blown out of a window. And that guy, that biker who is convicted of the murder, his name is Trouble Owens. I like that no one has an actual given name in this movie. The bikers all just go by Trouble. So even on the news, when they're talking about like Trouble Owens is up for his court cases today, they never give his actual first name. So I can only assume that once you join the Brotherhood, you are forced to legally change your name to whatever your biker nickname is.
And here's a fun fact. The Trouble's real name is actually pretty awesome. His name is Billy Million.
Oh, the actor?
Yes, the actor is named Billy Million.
That is a pretty...
If you wanted another tie into things, I think this is a pretty good one. Episode 2, The Losers of Erie, Indiana. We have...
Oh, some of these guys are in that, aren't they?
He is one of the bikers in the biker gang that shows up at the start.
Yes.
That our friend Mars sees.
I think
and turns out the bikers are not that bad guys. He's biker number 2.
I think that episode, is why I got the idea that we should watch Stone Cold and put it on the list, because I was like, those guys look like some of the bikers from Stone Cold.
1991, both. That was where you get your work, either in Stone Cold,
yeah,
or Erie, Indiana.
Billy Million. Billy is short for billion.
Bamillion.
Billion Million.
Call him.
And playing Trouble in this film is Billion Million.
It's Millie Billion. How dare you?
So he gets convicted of the crime. The judge sentences him to 40 years in prison, and the district attorney is not happy about this. He wants the death penalty, but the biker gang decides, well, we're going to take it out on this judge. So the judge is at his home. He's about to go fishing on his lake. He goes to get on his boat to head out into the water, and it blows up spectacularly. It's like he turns the key and just and there, to me, there's a moment of like, so there was a plan that like if you blow up the judge, all their judgments no longer are canon. I think it's just a revenge thing, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, like in terms of why they're doing this. Like,
yeah,
and why do it in such an extravagant way? Why not just shoot him or like drown him, or like I guess they're trying to send a message, but like if
like no one comes after them for this.
I know, that's what I was going to say. Like if you're a buddy from your biker gang is convicted of murder, and then the judge who convicted him dies, wouldn't the authorities immediately suspect the biker gang?
Like almost immediately. But like that's not really it's never really brought up again that they did that.
No, it's like, on a newspaper
planet, the whole
Huff
sees.
State,
From after that. Yeah, but like I thought it was even funny, like when if you're convicting a member of a biker gang, of a white supremacist biker gang at the trial, I don't think you would let in the entire gang to be in the courtroom to yell and scream at the verdict.
Yeah, because even one of them, I think, screams at him, "You're gonna die."
Yeah, and then he dies, and then no one goes after them.
Well, I guess we can assume. I guess we can assume that by them sending in Joe Huff as John Stone, that is their sort of thing. They
have to catch them. Like one of them shot a priest through a window,
while the others waited and watched.
And like they have to catch them on a drug deal to get back at them for not being able to somehow pin this murder on them.
Yeah, it's very flimsy. I mean, I feel like the FBI has enough to go in and bust these guys, but they
busted a few of them, maybe at least chains and ice.
Yeah, get a couple that you know are high ranking, get those guys out of there, and or get some low ranking people who will roll over on the high ranking people as long as they can avoid jail time. I mean, the lesson of this story is if you just let these white supremacists walk around for long enough, you end up having them walk into Congress, into your Capitol building or wherever with giant guns. Oh, and that happened a couple months ago.
Yeah, I mean, and hey, maybe we'll get back to it again. Thankfully, AMC Theater isn't going to enforce masks, so they won't at least attack people going to see Mulan.
God, Jesus. We're really grounding this one in a very particular set of days.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, so like the world's a fucking trash heap, everyone. It's fine. So we can finally talk about Stone's Komodo dragon.
Yes, let's talk about his Komodo dragon because we see him making a drink that we assume because he's a lunk, he's a large fellow, that he's making a protein drink.
Yes.
So what I saw him put into this were several Snickers, which he had to open with his mouth for some reason. Potato chips, banana, eggs, eggshells, and hot sauce. Delicious.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then he gives it, and then you think he's gonna drink it, then he pours it into a dish, and you think, oh, he's giving it to his dog. No, it's a Komodo dragon.
Yeah, he says, because they fake you out a couple times. It is first, he's making a drink for himself, because we've seen other big strong men do this. I'm sure that there's been some movie where Stallone or Arnold or whatever has made some weird concoction in a blender. And he calls out for Fido, and you're like, oh, is this for his dog? And then, no, of course not. It's a Komodo dragon who grunts like a pig.
And he won't eat it right away. And then he like gets all up in the Komodo dragon's area. They're a loving couple. And
they are.
The FBI show up at his door. They're ringing the doorbell. They flash their badge, and then we like get a shot of the Komodo dragon going like the Komodo dragon saw the FBI badge. It's like disgusted that they would show up in his house.
Yeah, and this is when he gets taken to meet the sort of lead agent in charge on this, and he basically wants Stone to go undercover because of his biker related arrest record in Alabama, and he knows biker gangs very well, and so he wants him to go undercover and try to get some dirt on these guys so they can finally take them down, because they have suspicions that they're trying to broaden their sort of area of terror with more like bigger scale kind of problems, more drug stuff, more like contract killings, that kind of thing. So they want him to go in and kind of figure out what's going on with that and try to get some information that they can use to bust them. We're introduced here to
busting does make them feel good.
yeah, they should be doing a little more of that. They introduce here who will sort of be his FBI contact / partner, Lance.
Lance, who's around for some of the movie, but not all of it.
Yeah, who is a germaphobe, who is very nervous about things. He's a real square until the end of the movie when he has an earring suddenly
and a powder blue suit.
It's funny when they're in like Florida, in that middle part of the movie, he's got like a fucking Miami Vice type suit on.
I mean, wouldn't he? It's 1991. I mean, if he's a square, he'd be 4 or 5 years out of fashion. So.
That is true. But so that he decides that he will go undercover because he's told that if he doesn't, his 3-week suspension will turn into a 6-month suspension without pay. And he's like, well, I can't be off the streets not killing people, so sure, I'll do your job for you.
And that's the end of really their tension between each other.
Yeah, I mean I mean they have a little bit later when they're worried about the fake drug deal, but
I was worried there's a point where he was going to become like, maybe, you know, I've gotten to know some of these white supremacist bikers, and really, which side is worse, the FBI or the white supremacist bikers? Maybe I'm not so comfortable helping you take them down anymore. Thankfully, it never went.
No,
that
it never
way.
goes that way. But they do have, when Gut says that, like Gut has basically that kind of comment where he goes, "This isn't why I joined the Brotherhood, all these murders and stuff." And it's like, dude, you joined a white supremacist biker gang who have Nazi signifiers all over the place. What did you think that you were getting into? It's not that far-fetched to think they would start committing murders at some point.
I mean, and they commit murders very casually, like they've done it before. They kill a priest at the start of the fucking
movie. He's involved from the beginning. It's like when they kill these military guys that they kidnap, that this guy suddenly has a problem.
I mean, they beat the shit out of two military guys who were doing a stop, which once again would bring the entire weight of the army down upon them. But apparently they're tough because they have motorbikes.
Yeah, that's also weird that the military doesn't get involved and just completely destroy their compound. Like they never get into that at all. It's just kind of like, well, our hands are tied until Joe Huff gets us the evidence we need to take them down.
Not the blood in their place and whatever. Like it escalates them so high that the fact that Joe Huff, Mr. Stone Cold himself, has to like do something to like still prove, give them their evidence. But don't worry, everyone can come up at the end when the white supremacists murder everybody.
Yeah, and then they all get killed themselves. So I mean, it sort of works out, I guess.
Hey, Joe Huff
zero-sum game.
This movie is pretty much should be called Zero-Sum Game.
So is this around the time where I think Lance shows up at Joe's apartment?
Okay. Yeah, so because
there's cockroaches everywhere, they talk a lot. Wow, that's a flashback.
That's a flashback. I like these movies always have to prove to you, because we can't have the boss have a sex scene, because that would be awkward to ask of a football player. But we have to prove that he's in these movies like this. We always have to prove like they have a vitality, a sexual power.
For sure.
So we had to walk in on him having a naked lady underneath the sheets.
Yes.
And in these movies, when the square comes in and there's a naked lady in there who hasn't woken up yet, and she wakes up and her one night stand or whatever it is, her relationship person has another person in it, and she's just naked in the living room or the bedroom, she always has to be like, I'm so thrilled to have been a sexual partner of the main character of this movie that I am free. I am sexually free. I am not concerned that another man who I don't know is in here while I'm naked. I'm just gonna casually get up, show off a little bit of my body, kiss the main character, and walk out of the movie. And there's a Komodo dragon down there.
Yeah, Lance here is he basically does a humana whenever he sees this woman, and it's very very ridiculous and completely unnecessary.
It's weird that like they go like they do this scene like, okay, there's our gratuitous boobers for this movie, and it's followed by a scene with gratuitous titters right after.
Yeah, he's there to sort of pick him up so they can get started. They go to this biker bar, or a trucker bar, I guess, rather. What is this, the Tit for Tat?
Yes, it's the strip bar called Tit for Tat, and it's exactly what you think it is.
Yeah, and he tells I love this moment where, like, so not only does this movie have to set up for people who don't have any idea what like biker gangs are like, or what any of this stuff is like, or how this guy does his job or whatever, but it's also like telling us what strip clubs are, because he's like, yeah, the truckers like to come in and watch girls dance and get their rocks off. And it's like, yeah, you just described a strip club, my man.
Like, this guy, I know that this germaphobe is a square. He's a grown adult. Like, it's not like, oh, only us tough dudes on the street know what a strip club is. Like, everyone knows what a fucking strip club is. Your uncle went to one. Don't worry.
And he tries to help Lance get coolified by tearing the sleeves off of his jean jacket and like messing his hair up a little bit and telling him to run some grease through it.
Meanwhile, his own hair, no grease whatsoever.
Well, we don't know that. That could be what's making it dark on the sides.
You never know. He should
bucket full of motor oil.
Also, like, if the boss wanted to look a little bit rough around the edges, maybe not shave his entire body. There is no body hair anywhere on this young man.
Yeah, pretty much from like the eyebrows down, he is hairless.
He's hairless, and it's impossible that he actually is. It is impossible. This guy is shaving 5 times a day to stay this baby smooth.
Well, they do make a joke about that because when Chains goes through his van, he holds up a razor, like a little razor, and then he gives that to Gut and tells Gut to go slit his wrists.
That's what you would say to Gut, though.
Which has to be an ad-libbed line. I can't imagine that was in the script, but if it was, hey, great job. So they go into this bar, and Stone wants to get the attention of Ice Hensley, I think is his name, played by William Forsythe, because he's Chains Cooper's right hand.
I love
man.
their last names,
and
it's like it gives him a family name, but just
yeah, I'm Chains Cooper of the Connecticut Coopers.
I won't tell you my Christian name because then you could have power over me.
It's like Rumpelstiltskin.
Yep.
I can't tell you my real name, or you'll be able to banish me away. So there is we get a lot of, as you said, we get a lot of gratuitous nudity here, a lot of women dancing and everything. My favorite part about this, though, is that there is a band playing while the women are dancing, and it doesn't appear to be sort of like an organized strip show. It's just women scantily clad dancing around while the band is playing. And we get, for like a brief second, we get a POV shot from a guitar, which I don't think I've ever seen in another movie before.
I don't think I haven't seen either, which I feel like you'd almost think at least one movie would have done that before. But then I thought, why would they ever do that? This movie didn't need it.
It's like, I was thinking about it just from like a filmmaking standpoint, because like it's easy to forget like how, like, if you get caught up in a film, you forget about, like, you don't see the cuts, it's like if a movie is captured your attention, you're not paying attention to how it's edited. But like in that moment where we cut to the shot from, like, you see the neck of the guitar down and it's this guy's playing it, and it's like, how much time did it take to set up that shot just for that 1 second of film to like play? And I admire the craft.
That was their the rest of the movie was built around this shot. Like, the cinematographer had this idea and he brought it to the writer and the director. Like, I'm going to make a movie. I have this idea for this exciting new shot. It's a POV shot from a guitar. And they're like, oh, how can we use it? Well, first we have to be in a bar, but not just any bar. Let's make a trucker bar, and then from there it expanded.
You keep mentioning the writer. I have to mention this guy, Walter Doniger, I think is his name. This was his last film that he wrote. He had a 50.
He achieved perfection and moved on.
Well, he had a 50-year career. His first the first thing he wrote was in 1941. He wrote something called Mob Town, and then he wrote a bunch of like stuff for television. He wrote like some Western stuff, a lot of Western stuff. The Rough Riders, Bronco, Outlaws. So the Guns of Fort Petticoat, like he wrote a lot of these things, and then the last film he wrote was Stone Cold.
Just incredible. Like he wrote these words and thought, there, the capper on my career. I have just hit. He wrote down, he hit the period on God forgives, the Brotherhood doesn't, and knew like there was nothing else he could do.
Well, I think you're right, because that Stone Cold came out in 91. He didn't die until 2011. So he realized, I've done all I need to do. I'm going to stop writing and live my life for another 20 years.
Another 20 years. And like, he I mean, as soon as he died, I mean, he probably on his tombstone is, it's better be first in hell than last in heaven.
His epitaph reads, I think of the final words of my father. No, son, that gun's loaded.
Oh, that's the best you could do when you have Lance Hendrickson.
Yeah,
about to shoot the shit out of a prosecutor.
So he goes up to Stone goes up to Ice Hensley, and he's like, "Hey, want to tell me why your old lady's been eyeing my tail all night?" And he's like, "Hey, this woman you've been making out with has been staring at my ass for 2 hours. What's up with that?"
Man, I really got tired of women being called old lady.
Yeah.
I know bikers say that, but like, guess what, bikers? Shut the fuck up. It's not funny or interesting or a thing to say. Like calling your girlfriend or wife my old lady should have ended like in 1964.
Or my ball and chain. That's another one that is.
Oh, good fucking lord.
I will say that another reason not to recommend this movie is women aren't treated great in it. Not surprisingly, but
I do enjoy when given a woman later who's a named character, Mr. Huff declines her services because he's a gentleman, and she seems shocked beyond words that anyone could be so nice to her as to not sexually use her, as given by her boyfriend. And it's this moment of like, okay, well, good, he's not a scumbag, but also don't give her that look like she's impressed with him.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you don't want to take advantage of me? Well, I like you even more now.
They don't really ever go down the road of those two being a couple.
Well, they kind of do for a little bit. They kiss
a little bit. But when she finds out he's a cop, all she ever cares is that he was a pig cop.
Yeah, I mean, she's right.
I mean, she's right. He is a pig cop.
But then the way that she is handled is pretty shitty. I mean, spoiler alert, she is killed unceremoniously and quite shockingly.
By the end, everyone's killed. This is kind of what happens.
It's true, but like it is quite shocking to see them.
We
deal
are
with
an hour into this podcast, and there's so many people who have not died who we haven't even introduced.
Okay,
yet.
I'm sorry. We'll speed it up a little bit as much as possible. I mean, this is a film that requires deep discussion on these things.
I mean, I all I want to mention about bikers is that bikers seem to love watching bikers.
Yeah,
they seem to like to stand on the side of the road and watch each other go up and down the street on bikes.
We do get that. So basically, he goes up to Ice, and they kind of get into this argument. Ice calls him Bam Bam, which is pretty accurate.
He's not wrong. He calls him a grown up. It's like a grown up Bam Bam, which he kind of
yeah.
does.
And Stone says, "Well, I just got out of jail. I need some work. I hear you guys might have some stuff that I could help out with." And they're about to get into a bit of a fight, but then there are some truckers who are mad at Nancy, who is Chains' girlfriend, the person we were just talking about, for I'm not really sure what she sold them or didn't sell them or stiff them on. And I'm not really totally sure what happened there, but they're mad at her for something. This leads to a big bar brawl where Stone gets involved and saves Gut and helps out Ice and proves himself, basically tries to show that he is worthy of being potentially taken in by this biker gang.
Don't worry if you thought like that's a very easy, quick way for him to prove himself. Don't worry. The majority of this movie is Stone proving himself to the next 45 minutes are just one thing after another to him. Now you have to prove yourself to us. Now you have to prove yourself to us. If you do this, you'll prove yourself to us. That's all the rest of the movie is.
Yeah, pretty much until they've realized that he's a cop, and then they want to kill him.
They were like the entire time they're like, maybe he's a cop. Yeah, he is.
Yeah, Ice was right the whole time. Like, Ice was right to be suspicious of him, and nobody believed him, and then he died for it.
At least he got a Viking funeral.
That is true.
A Viking funeral.
You fucker.
It's so ridiculous.
Viking funeral. That was good. So yeah, he goes to their biker hangout where I guess they're just having like biker spring break or something. Like, he just pulls up with no trouble. I guess it's like bike week or whatever.
They just all live there like communally?
Well, no, that's not where they live though. That's where they're just hanging out, because later he goes to their compound and they let him in because they have a fenced in sort of compound where Chains has like a fucking warehouse apartment with a rope, like a climbing rope in it.
Oh, it is a sweet bachelor pad full of many, many bachelors
that he floods with carbon monoxide when he revs up his motorcycle to get people to leave.
I'm not a fan of bike culture anyway. If you like base your life around something that you own and drive, like that's your entire personality, I'm sorry, it's a little bit one-dimensional. But like,
wow, you're alienating our Patreon supporters.
I'm sure like all our bikers on the Patreon. But
I think Felipe is a biker.
He also can draw. These guys can't. There's no one named Art. I'm sure Tool can make some things, but what is Ice doing? He doesn't do anything freezing.
Oh man, every one of their names should have been connected to like a skill they had. Like, Ice can make ice sculptures.
Something.
Gut has or he has
diamonds.
Gut has irritable bowel syndrome.
He looks like he does. Trouble has trouble getting through the night without going to pee 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, Mudfish. He loves hunting for crawdads.
He loves it. And Poker,
he loves the slot machine.
He loves the slot machines. He fucks them. Man, is there a better name than Magic Schwartz? I know I keep talking about the actual names of the actors,
I know, but when you have a movie
Poker
with Billy Million and Magic Schwartz, that's pretty good.
Like, that's your porn name.
I mean, we have some pretty good biker names in here. I'll go through a couple of them real quick. Obviously, Chains, Ice, Gut, Tool, Trouble, Mudfish, AWOL, who's not a biker. Can you guess what he does based on that name? He's a disgraced military member. Very literal name.
Played by Mac's dad from Always Sunny. Yeah. And you'll know that because he looks exactly like Mac at this point.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. We've got Poker. We've got
Vitamin.
Greek Vitamin. Hooter. One Eye. Big John. Smokey Six Pack. Yeah, it's good. There's some good names in here, and when you see them in the end credits just rolling by, you're like, holy shit.
Boy, Joe's girlfriend is really low on the cast members, by the way. I didn't know he was supposed to be his girlfriend.
I don't know what that is, because he does seem to have a little bit of affection for Nancy, like when they kind of start to get together. But anyway, he shows up at Bike Week and he fights a big guy. Like they're just they're playing some fun and games, and there's this guy who's just beating on people. I guess it's just some bare knuckle boxing happening, and he jumps into the ring, and
it's a WCW pay-per-view Hog Wild, which they used to have take place at a biker rally in North Dakota. Guess what? They didn't like the tag team Harlem Heat.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay. I'm not surprised about that. And he wins the fight, and it's a decent action scene. They fight each other. It's fun. There's some motorcycle races here. I think is this where he beats Ice in a race?
He beats Ice in a race, so that means his bike is faster.
I don't know. Yeah, like I don't get it. But he shows up, and this is where he meets Chains for the first time. This is where we first see Lance Henriksen.
So he is. There's like 5 to 10 scenes somewhere between those numbers, which is a very long, big stretch, where the scene ends with Lance Henriksen kind of sitting back, opening his mouth and laughing, going, ha, ha, ha. And it might as well be the same shot repeated over and over again. He
looks like a pirate in this movie.
He does. He's got long, stringy hair and a mustache, and he's always wearing like a vest. He's cut with no shirt,
and he's got like he's got a bandana on a lot of times. Like he looks like he's just hopped off a pirate ship.
It's so funny because later at the very end of the movie, he's going to go in disguise as a priest, and he basically turns into regular Lance Henriksen.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you just joined the millennium right there. It's like,
yeah, it's
because he looks so awesomely skeezy in this.
Oh yeah, he looks great.
He's doing like he doesn't look like there's a certain like how Lance Henriksen in the 90s looked in the 80s looked in everything. That's not this. He's a pirate.
Yeah,
he is a white supremacist pirate. He's a white beard.
Yeah. He is the best part of the movie. I mean, we already said that like he's too good for this, but he is easily the best part, and like it's fun to watch him on screen, like just how he like I think that's why I kind of like it still, just because you have these actors who are like, I mean, we've seen William Forsythe in some shit. We did that shark movie that he's in, which is pure trash. I can't remember what it's called, Shark Attack or something. Whatever the one with the mutant shark.
Dick Tracy.
Well, he's in that mutant shark movie on the island with.
Yeah, it's the same. Same one with the head. Jeff.
Yes, exactly.
Blue Demon.
Blue Demon. Yeah. Or no, not Blue Demon. He's in Shark Man.
Shark Man. That's right. I forgot that existed. I keep telling you that Shark Timber not canon to the show.
That is true.
No one downloaded any of it.
That is true. Yeah. So he's been in some shit, but he is a decent actor, and Lance Henriksen's a decent actor, and the fact that they're like they're not phoning it in when they're in this movie, which is like so strange. Like they are really committing, and it's so weird to see them, having seen them be great in other things, and like they're still good in this.
Someone who would star as J. Edgar Hoover in a TV series playing Ice in this.
And so they kind of meet, and he's sort of threatening. He's basically like, you gotta prove yourself to us, and you gotta show us that you're worthy to be a part of our gang. And that's kind of where the movie goes. That we do this a good bit. This is when a lot of stuff happens. I'm not going to go through all of it, but this is roughly when they decide that he needs to go. Is this where they send him to Florida to get that guy? It's around this area, right?
Yeah. At first he comes back with like when does he have the bulletproof vest on.
Oh, I think that's when he shows up at their compound. You're right. So he goes to the compound, and then he shows up with his bulletproof vest, and they're like, "This is government issue." And he's like, "Everything in here is government issue. You guys steal from the government, and that gun in your pants is government issue," and like all this stuff. And he puts the vest on, and then Chains shoots him, and he's like, "Well, I guess that works."
And then he chokes the shit out of Chains.
Yeah, and
which impresses Chains.
Yeah, this is that like this movie is nothing but like tough guy cliches of like, oh, you're a tough guy, you attacked me, and that means you're worthy of my attention or whatever. Like it's that same dumb idea that like if a kid stands up to a bully one time, the bully will go away forever and not continue to harass the kid over and over again.
No, like the people who harass you generally harass you because they're within your orbit every day, all the time. That's why they can harass you. They're around you. You can't do one thing and then they disappear from existence.
Yeah, and this is kind of that same thing, is that you stand up to this guy and he's going to respect you.
And like, I also like you talk about the dance. They tell him to go get this guy. They want to kill him to prove that he can kill for the. Even though the apparently gut thinks they're not about murder, they tell him to go straight up murder some guy, right?
Yeah.
And get his earring.
Well, they want his ear because he has a spider web or spider tattoo on his ear. It's very distinctive.
Which is. Yes, so he goes to this club. This is where he looks fantastic, and he goes in there, and
I needed a scene of his like primping ritual, like him getting his hair in place and picking out his cool black turtleneck thing to wear. Like I needed that scene.
I mean, it would have made it better, but then he watches his Mark do all this dancing, and then he, of all people, has to like act like this guy's being too flashy. Look at yourself, my friend.
Because he has like a crazy, he has a crazy earring himself. Like in this, it's a nutty earring.
It is, and then he's like, "Oh, if I danced that well, I would have take a bow, and then takes the guy's head and slams it into the bar and knocks him out and walks out, and nobody looks at them. Everybody like is okay with this giant. Like non-green Hulk walking out with this guy over his shoulder he just knocked out in front of all of them, and no one bats a fucking eye.
Yeah, I mean that's the privilege of a white man, I guess. I don't know.
Yes. So what do they do? Because they have to fake his death. He's not going to kill him.
Yes.
But him and the FBI had to fake his death. How do they fake his death? Because this is the way they do this is not the way you think they might do.
Well, so they take him, they put him on a plane. They basically tell him never to return. And they somehow have, I guess they have taken a random dead body and cut the ear off of it. And they take the ear to a tattoo artist who has to tattoo on the little spider and spider web tattoo thing that he has in his ear. And the guy has the comment like, "Well, I've tattooed a flabby ass, but I've never tattooed a cut off ear before."
And then he laughs like this is the funniest fucking thing he's ever come across.
That would I don't know, like I don't know any tattoo artists. I don't know sort of what their lives are like. I don't know anything about them, but I feel like that would be a weird request, even if it's coming from the FBI. Like, could this be traced back to me in some way? Because I don't want to be involved in this.
Like, what if he's the official FBI tattoo artist? Like, he's on payroll.
Hey, we got to go down and see old Chet. I know we haven't really talked to him.
Tattoo department.
Yeah, the tattoo department. I'm in the FBI T department.
So this proves that he's worthy of the gang. So they send him on his first mission, which is to collect money from a
brothel.
A brothel.
Well, to take someone to collect money from a brothel.
Yes, and this was ICE's gig, but they give it to him because
he has to prove himself.
I don't know why. He's got to prove himself, and for some reason Chains decides that like I'm gonna piss off the one guy who's already pissed off about this, so I'm not pissing off two different people. I guess it kind of just you don't want redundancy in your business. And he sends her with Nancy, and there's already a guy there from the gang.
Oh, this is not Gut. Shit, what's the guy that is? This is the guy that's blown up, right? Oh, Tool. This is Tool.
Yeah, Tool's already because Tool was at the front gate to open
the
compound's door earlier, but now he's downtown in the city. Somehow,
yeah,
he just works all over the place. Tools get around, and he's arguing with one of the workers there because he is, and then the mafia come by, the Italian mafia of Mississippi.
Oh yeah, you're right. That doesn't make any sense.
And these New York
the
gangsters
Gulf Coast Italian
mafia.
mafia.
Yeah, and they like their New York pizza pies and a gravy in Shreveport, and they're like, oh, he's collecting it in our territory. Like they have an entire brothel. Like maybe stop it before they,
Yeah, that's weird because it's not like. I mean, does that mean
it's not like a street corner? It's a whole building.
Yeah, does that mean that the brothel is paying both the Brotherhood and the Italian Mafia?
I don't think they thought it through that well. But they see him and they're like, oh, look at him doing that. Let's casually throw a grenade at him out of the car while driving by, blowing up a car in front of him, burning him from head to toe.
So many casual explosions and collateral damage. When Ice dies later on, like, it's not just him dying, it's someone else too.
They don't care.
No, like...
don't worry, enough people are going to die in this.
That is true. So yeah, they blow up Tool and he goes flying through a window. And they then speed around the corner as Nancy is coming out of a building where Stone is waiting for her, and they drive up and grab her bag with all of the money in it, and they try to get away, and Stone jumps on the hood of their car, and he's like, you picked up the wrong hitchhiker, buddy, and like there is a shot of the car driving at the screen while Stone is on the hood, and he has this nice big split in his jeans so that like one of his ass cheeks is hanging out.
He insisted on that. That was part of his contract.
Like, I wonder if that was intentional part of this costuming, or did it happen in an action sequence and they just left it in?
I mean, it happened in every action sequence. They had 20 takes and his pants ripped every single time. This is the only one you couldn't see his balls, so they had to use it. And then he comes out, they come out, and then he beats up like 4 accountant-looking dudes.
Oh yeah, these Italian mob guys, I guess. And yeah, he beats them up until
like middle-aged salarymen.
He beats them up until one of them pulls a gun on him and says, tell Chains to keep his castles out of my sandbox, which is like, what?
That doesn't work.
It's a good line, but
hey, last movie he ever wrote.
Yeah, fair point. And they drive off with the money, and Nancy's worried that Chains is going to get upset, but Stone decides to give her the money to replace what was stolen. It was only like $400, so he's able to cover that, I guess, with petty cash from the FBI. I don't know. And this is when all the bikers show up at the hospital to see Tool, who is badly burned up. This reminded me.
He wants to die.
He wants to die. This reminded me so much of the Don the Dragon,
the Australian movie.
The Don the Dragon Wilson movie that we did, where those bikers show up randomly at the hospital and he beats them up, and then it's never talked about again.
It also reminds me of that movie we did, that Australian movie where that guy has a house party and the bikers show up.
Oh yeah,
and there's a hospital that's full of bikers in that one.
Oh, that's totally right. I forgot all about that.
Way.
Yeah, that was Summer something. That was Breaking Waves
Summer
2
Breeze
or something like
makes,
that.
Yeah, it was a sequel movie.
Yeah.
To a movie we didn't watch, because we do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Summer breezes make us feel fine.
Yeah, that's right. Tool is all burned up, and he is asking to be killed. there's this moment where Gut, who just has, I think Gut is just oblivious to everything because he doesn't know how to read the room. He is not aware that he is apparently involved in a white supremacist biker organization. Like, he just seems incapable of understanding the danger that he is in and like the situation he's found himself in, because he seems like mostly a good-natured guy. Like, he doesn't seem like a bad person because he tries to play a harmonica here to cheer up the burned Tool, and Chains yells at him and tells him to go out into the parking lot. But it's such a weird like twist of everything.
It's just a weird thing to considering, like, for some character we're supposed to believe is the nicest white supremacist biker. Like, we get to, he basically has a tortured existence for the rest of the movie. Like, he has something terrible happen to him, and then he dies very unceremoniously.
Yeah, it's not like he even like helps out or does anything to like save the day or try to like redeem himself in any way. It's just a guy who has this weird, slow dawning realization that he is in a white supremacist biker gang, and I guess it's taken him, I don't know, a decade to realize that.
Maybe he's done a lot of drugs.
It's possible, yeah.
So this is where they bring the helmet with a head to the mafia?
Well, not yet. They set that up. That's the next scene, because Stone brings this sample of P2P to Chains, which is just some water in a vial. Like, it's nothing. I don't understand. Like, this is one of those drugs that I don't understand. I know you made fun of me a couple weeks back for my knowledge of drugs, but what is this? Do you drink it?
It's supposed to be soup. It's a sequel to PCP.
Okay.
It's the drug sequel,
but
it's a rollicking good time.
But was PCP liquid?
Well, this one.
Do you inject this?
In my I had fun in my head that when they were driving the truck full of P2P, that they were actually saying PSPs. So there was a truck full of PSPs. PlayStation Portables. Very hot at the time in 91. Incredibly hot in 91.
Before the
wouldn't exist for another 15 years.
Before the launch of the original PlayStation. Hey, PlayStation Portable, you're going to love it. It will make a lot of sense when the PlayStation comes out in about 7 years, but, just...
I wish they had a truck full of, Mario 3 or something. Or
P2P, player to player.
Everything back here is a bunch of 32Xs.
But yeah, I didn't understand how they were supposed to, like, do you drink this stuff? Do you inject it? Do you
shoot it? You inject it.
Do you pour it into your eyes or something? Like, is it...
You can do whatever you want, man. It's crank, man. It's enough crank to wind up the half of the entire Gulf Coast.
I'm gonna bend over and pour it in my ass, I guess. I don't know.
It's worse than meth, apparently, I guess. I don't know.
He says
it's P2P, the sequel to PSP.
He says that's what they should have called the PlayStation 2, the P2P, the P2S, Play 2 station. He says he has a guy who's looking to unload 12 tons of this drug, and Chains is...
Wouldn't he have said a volume amount instead of a weight amount?
That is a good point. John Stone doesn't know the metric system.
It's true.
I have 12 million liters of this to unload. He's got to unload 12 million liters.
I got all these litras of these.
I mean, when you're on a road trip and you have to pee really bad, I got to unload 12 million liters.
Oh, this movie needed more people pissing, honestly.
But this is when they take the guy's head to the restaurant in a motorcycle helmet.
Whose head is this?
I think that this is Demichi, one of the guys who stole the money from Nancy.
That's great. Did we see this? It's dumb.
It's just a head in a motorcycle helmet, which doesn't make any sense because it's not like the character was wearing a motorcycle helmet when we met him.
Here's the other two other things with this. A, the mafia has almost no reaction to this. Like, they don't care at all. And they just go about their business deal like the head's not there. And then the mafia aren't in the rest of the movie.
Yeah, they're not a concern in the rest of the film, which is weird. Like, I feel like
because you feel like when the crank deal doesn't go down correctly, for I guess by Chains' run it does. He just gets it all, but
then they blow it up later.
They blow it up, so and also it shouldn't have been real drugs. It should have been just water, because it's the FBI.
Yeah.
It should have been steroids to get the street full of steroids. Roid rage is a problem with the youth. But the mafia, you think that in that case, the mafia would be mad at them and there'd be some kind of gang war between them. There's not. It's not in the rest of the movie. They're gone.
I didn't even think about that. I didn't think about the fact that, this is the last time that the Italian mafia is even mentioned. They just don't care about them.
Why are they ever even introduced in the movie?
I don't know.
There's just
unnecessary.
It's utterly unnecessary. It's I haven't had a writing career that spans from 1940 to this exact movie. And once again, you can check my IMDb on how many 8-star movies that I have made or written. It's very few. It's exactly as many as Rip Torn has directed. But there's no need for the mafia to be in this movie. When you start thinking about the fact that it's the mafia in Mississippi.
Yeah.
It's why did you owe some actors who thought they could play Italian heavies who can't?
Yeah.
And you wanted to cast them?
I get white supremacist biker gang totally makes sense for Mississippi. Italian mafia, a little less so. I don't know, because you're right. Once this scene is over, we never really talk about them again, and they're not an issue. They don't show up at the end to stop the bikers. That would have been interesting if the mafia shows up and helps him take out the biker gang at the courthouse. That could have been something.
They're we're mafia. We might be mafia, but we're American mafia.
It's like that scene in The Rocketeer where where the mafia finds out that guy's a Nazi, and they're like, I'm American. I hate the Nazis.
The Nazis.
So there's a couple scenes here. There's one where Chains is showing off his audio visual handiness by messing with a video of the DA so that the DA just says death over and over again.
He rewinds it. It's so stupid. I never got
pointless.
A reason why he hated this DA particularly so much.
Well, because he is very tough on crime, and he is running for governor.
And here's the problem with the movie. The only problem.
Perfect. Other than that,
he's like, we'll show him so that they don't mess with us again. Except for the second they walk into a courthouse, a giant courthouse, and shoot 20 judges.
They kill the entire Supreme Court of Mississippi.
There's literally nothing they could ever do again. He's scorched earth. He's not making future generations of white supremacist people will now get away with it because I've killed this one guy. Even there's no way they survive the day. They can't go anywhere.
I think it's very funny too that they're very secretive about this. They keep saying we're gonna crack the whip, and they have this code word for it and all this stuff. And all it is that we're gonna go to the courthouse and just shoot a bunch of people. It's not a secret plan. It's not we're gonna kidnap this guy or we're not gonna And
this is so pre 9/11 where they very easily get through every metal detector and they've already hidden guns underneath the chairs that somehow are already there.
Yeah, I guess the Brotherhood moonlight is the cleaning crew at the state capitol building.
Oh, it's their plan is to take this guy out for threatening the thing, but there's no coming back from it. From what they do, there's absolutely no coming back from it.
Yeah, it's not and the fact that Chains is doing it himself, he is putting himself in a position to be killed immediately.
Every one of them, the entire gang is there. There's no way they would, even without, because really, they don't even there's the army outside. they're not surviving the night. Like, I don't care. Stone doesn't need to do anything, honest to God.
Yeah, it's very much like the common joke that runs around that if Indiana Jones had just not gone after things or not tried to intervene, they would have taken the Ark to Hitler and he would have, burned himself up by opening it. And like, this is kind of that. Like, Stone does nothing. He doesn't stop them from doing what they're planning to do. He defeats them after the fact, but they still accomplished their mission.
Absolutely. And like, they wouldn't have walked out like, okay, he's dead, now we can do whatever we want. It's like, no, you killed the Supreme Court of Mississippi, and everyone saw, like, there were cameras in there, there's military outside. Like, motorbikes would be illegal in America after this.
Biker gangs,
they wouldn't ban the guns. They would outlaw the bikes.
That's true. The bikes are what caused them to go bad, not the guns.
Right.
Not the dangerous white supremacy that our country was built on.
No, it's the bikes.
Yeah. So around this time, Ice is kind of expressing his concern about Stone and how involved he's getting into the whole thing. But Chains doesn't want to hear it. Chains is like, no, I can do whatever I want. This is my operation. I'm in charge. I don't appreciate you questioning my judgment or whatever. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff that happens around this time, or some point in the movie. Chains calls this contact that he has within the Biloxi Police Department, he wants to check on John Stone. She calls back at some point and tells Nancy that the name John Stone is cross-referenced with a driver's license for Joe Huff. And
that seems like a mistake.
That seems like the FBI should have made that impossible to find. Like, wouldn't they have assumed that maybe there's something going on where we can't necessarily trust the police because these guys are able to get away with all these crimes? Maybe they have a mole somewhere. Maybe they have someone who's helping them. We need to make sure we cover this guy's identity very clearly so that there's no chance that he gets found out. And the only reason that he's not immediately killed is because Nancy takes the phone call instead of Chains.
Right. And I don't know. That just seems like such a weird thing. Such a weird way of having that happen. They could have found out a different way.
Yeah. And I think this is around the time where they're out, he's out having lunch with Nancy or something. And then he gets called away. He has to go make a phone call. I guess he gets like a little message on his, pager. Yeah, his pager. And that put me back in the 90s. Did you ever have a pager?
No. I just talked to people.
And so he goes off to meet with Lance, and Ice follows him and basically sprays his machine gun at them, and it's like, I'll see you back at camp. And they have this big motorcycle chase where Stone is trying to catch up with Ice, and it's a whole thing. And then Ice takes his eyes off the road for a second and then runs face first into a car.
Yep. During this fight, like, they blow up a cop car. Like, his Uzi somehow makes a cop car explode. Everything is catching fire.
Yes.
Here, which once again brings no consequence to anybody.
Yeah, it's a cartoon of a movie. I mean, it's an impressive action sequence. There's some amazing explosions, and like the stunt driving is really good, and like it's competently filmed. Like it looks good, but I'm just amazed that Ice runs into this car seemingly being driven by someone, and they both just go up in flames. That's
the funny part. It's irony. Do you know why?
Because his name is Ice.
Exactly.
He should have been. He should have been crushed under like a big cube of ice,
or just crushed in general. Like, oh, crushed ice. His last words to John Huff from Huff Cold movie is "fuck you, cop." And then apparently, despite the fact that he blew up a cop car and caused tremendous death, the authorities must let John Huff take this guy's corpse back to
Yeah. How did they
the
get this
compound.
body?
I don't understand. And then they prop Ice up on a bike on a pier up higher, and they light him on fire.
Yeah. They give him his biking funeral, as you said earlier. And yeah, it's a wild scene. Like, just the fact that they have his dead body is crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy, this whole thing. This is like, if this happened in real life, like, and anybody doing like an expose, like, for one time, someone like got out of like, maybe like left a biker game, like, by the way, when one of them dies, they put their body on the bike and they set the entire bike on fire. Like, everyone would know this. Like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? So, fuck. From this point, like, then they're going to start the sting, right? When does the army stuff happen?
That's already happened. They already went to
they shoot the army
Yeah,
guys.
they went to this army checkpoint and kidnapped these two guys and then killed them and put them in boxes and then
they put them in boxes and then shot them.
Yeah, they put them in these crates and then they shot them and then they left their bodies back at the checkpoint with signs that have the future governor's face on them with X's and blood. So they're clearly, preparing, they're making things known.
They're subtle.
Yeah, very subtle. And I think this is around the point where they do try to have the deal with the guy who wants to offload this P2P. It's all set up. The FBI has supplied a guy to act as the delivery driver and to allow him to be fake killed by Stone so that he can further prove himself to the Brotherhood. This is, I think, the 6th or 7th time he's had to prove himself.
It just keeps going. And then they're driving off this big semi truck full of P2P, and he's in the front seat with Nancy. She figures out that he's a cop because she's got the phone call and she's screaming he's a fucking pig.
Well, and also his cop buddies call him on the radio.
Yes, so it's all really dumb here. But then, like, Chains double crosses him and changes the location they're going to and takes off with the semi. And they must actually have real drugs in there because they're concerned that all of a sudden there's gonna be drugs are gonna flood the entire area. They could have put fake drugs.
They could have put like at least they could have had a few vials near the front of the real stuff to be like, oh, if you need to test it or make sure that it's real. But like the stuff in the middle and the way back, you don't need that to be real. Like, that can be fake.
It's like just how like when you open the suitcase and the top is all dollar bills and underneath is just regular paper.
Yes,
so it looks full.
It doesn't need to be real. It's just clear liquid. It's not even got a distinctive color. It's just, you could just fill them all with water.
So he's got to stop these drugs that are going to flood the Mississippi Gulf. That's probably already flooded with cheaper drugs, and he goes after the semi, and there's only one way to stop them, and that's to shoot the trailer off the truck. He like shoots the area between the semi and the trailer until the trailer comes off the truck. I don't know how that would work. And then the trailer goes off the truck into a gas station. And then it all explodes.
Yeah. What happens to the truck drivers?
They just drive off.
But they don't realize what he did?
I don't know, because he fucking shows up at the compound right afterwards, and they all know he's a good guy, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
why does he show up here? His cover's completely blown up, just like this fucking gas station.
I don't know. It's weird because like they bring him in, and they try to set it up that Nancy might have rolled over on him and told what happened. But then, no, it's not her. It's actually the guy that they sent away earlier with the tattoo on his ear. He shows up and he's like, haha, see, I told you I'd be back. And, payback's a bitch, right? And then he gets killed by Chains because Chains is like, God forgives, the Brotherhood doesn't. And then he shoots this guy because the guy still double-crossed him at some point. Because I think that guy was, selling drugs in Chains' territory, and he didn't like it. I guess that's what their big beef was.
Yeah, I don't know. I like I said, that entire time, I didn't pay any attention to. This is hair. This hair is all I care
And
about.
yeah, so he dies, and then Chains pretty unceremoniously shoots Nancy and kills her, which is pretty fucked up. And it just happens so quickly and so casually, and you're just like, oh well, okay, I guess. I mean, I was already thinking these guys were bad guys. You didn't need to just murder this woman for no reason.
They just didn't have a story for her.
No,
so.
she has no like character arc, or I mean, I guess kind of, but it's very minimal.
It's very minimal. Like, it's not even like there was no point where they were gonna like, oh, we'll have her decide that she's not down with the white supremacists.
God.
So like they just like the only answer to get rid of her to, I guess, give Stone a motive to want to stop and kill the white supremacist bikers.
Yeah, you got to need a reason for that.
Yeah, like I guess
these are good people.
On both sides.
Oh, God. Yeah. So she dies, which is pretty fucked up. And instead of just killing Stone, he has to do this very elaborate thing. He says, "You're going to be my angel." And there's a lot of weird religious stuff because they kill the priest at the beginning. He says, like when he's talking to the FBI guys, they say that they've killed 3 religious leaders in like a month. And then at the end here, he's saying he's going to be his angel. And then Lance Henriksen dresses up as a priest when he goes into the thing, and he talks about his cross and everything. So I don't know if there's like some weird religious stuff that is not played up enough in this, or
it's all of a sudden at the end he has all these catchphrases that do with religion and angels and demons. And it's like,
yeah,
but like there's been an hour and 20 minutes at this point where you didn't do that.
Yeah, he's not doing a lot of like Bible, like quoting Bible verses or whatever, like, I don't know, maybe that was part of the movie and it got cut when they reshot a bunch of stuff. I don't know, who knows. So he decides that he's going to strap a bomb to Stone and then throw him out of a helicopter above the Capitol building.
Sure. Why not? So AWOL is a former military guy who has joined the Brotherhood, and he just goes to a military base and pays off some guy to borrow a military helicopter.
And the guy's like, have it back in a couple hours or it'll be both our asses.
I would hope it would be somebody's ass if that happened.
Well, then what happens to that guy? Because that helicopter blows up.
I mean, hopefully, like, it's blown up enough where they can't trace back, like, oh, that was the helicopter you were in charge of that you let a white supremacist
No,
take,
sorry, that doesn't matter because it's just flying around in front of the Capitol, like flying over people's heads so close to the ground. It has certainly been filmed and on television, so they could easily see it and go, isn't that one of our helicopters?
Like, weren't you in charge of the helicopter? Did you give it to white supremacists who killed the entire Mississippi Supreme Court?
You're in trouble, mister.
You are going to be dishonorably discharged.
We're going to put you on suspension from the army. When we're right at the end here. They show us that Lance Henriksen has now cut his hair and shaved his little mustache.
He now looks like Lance Henriksen.
He's wearing a pretty sweet, like, Neo from the Matrix sequels jacket on. He's got this long flowing jacket that he's using as his priest outfit. And
I kind of wanted him like in an Exorcist movie at this point.
Yes, but he looks like he's in the Matrix. Like that's what this outfit looks
Why
like. This looks like what?
Why isn't he in the Matrix?
Oh man, maybe he'll make an appearance in Matrix 4.
I'm not going to go watch that movie because I haven't watched the first 3.
What?
No, I have not watched it.
You've never seen the first Matrix?
Not a minute of it.
Oh my God. Well, we might have to talk about that on this Patreon feed.
Never. Now talking about it. I have not watched anything from specifically that around those years of college where everyone would shut up the fuck up about those certain movies. I have not watched The Matrix, and I have never watched The Titanic.
Comment below if you want to hear us talk about The Matrix and The Titanic on a supersized Patreon episode.
You're going to have to fucking pay me a lot, my friend.
Sign up for the $50 tier and make Brian Skinner talk about The Matrix and Titanic.
I will find a different Brian Skinner.
So anyway, he goes in to the courtroom. He realizes that the guy, we didn't even talk about that, not much, but when they do the deal, Stone shoots the FBI guy and it pretends that he died. But he sees him in the courtroom and he's like, oh, okay. Now I know for sure that Stone is a liar and he's working with the police. I knew it before, but now it's confirmed. And then I can't remember when the whole like crack the whip thing happens, but he grabs that guy and says, this time it's for real. And then he shoots him in the back a bunch of times.
He puts an automatic rifle into his back and then unloads about 200 shots, which would leave this man for the exit wounds as hamburger.
Yeah. And then the bikers who have driven up in a truck, they all spring out of the back on their motorcycles. Like this is like so that shot in the first. It's like in the first Darkman where all those guys in cars come blowing out of those like storage sheds in that warehouse.
That's all I could think of.
But it's like also I said it on that episode and I'm saying it here too. They were just sitting in the back of that truck with carbon monoxide just covering them while they're waiting. They're revving their motorcycles ready to go. Like
I know they're bikers, so they had to bring their bikes, but I don't see like what advantages they had by bringing their bikes indoors.
Yeah, I don't know. They ride around. Lance Henriksen kills the entire Supreme Court of Mississippi.
He kills about 40 people here.
Yeah, it's insanity. He kills the whip. He completes his mission.
So the point of this, like his entire arc was, I want to kill the whip. This governor candidate who's going to crack down on the biker gangs. And the boss doesn't stop any of it. It all happens. He not only just kills him, he kills everyone on the Supreme Court and a room full of important people. He's taken over this, like the Supreme Court of Mississippi, and he's murdered everyone. The boss has stopped none of this. None of it.
Yeah, he's actually very ineffective. Nancy is killed. The entire Supreme Court of Mississippi, the future governor, like it's pretty bad. He does a bad job.
He strong breaks. He's tied up in the helicopter, but he's so strong he breaks his bonds, takes a bomb off his chest, puts it on somebody else, shoves them out, and they blow up in the air. That's kind of fun.
It's pretty great.
He gets out of the helicopter.
He jumps out. I love this, actually. He jumps out of the helicopter through a skylight, falls into a wall, and then turns around and starts fighting guys.
Right. He comes up. There's one guy yelling out the window with a hostage at the people outside. Like, I don't care. They're not getting out of this. Like, literally, everyone's is dead. They will drop a bomb on these people on their compound. They're not getting away. Like, whatever their plan was of like, this will teach them to come after us, they're only going to come after you harder. But he's yelling, and we have Gut behind him who sees Stone, and he's kind of overwhelmed and thinks you have a sense that he has second thoughts. He takes 1 second to say, "Hey, John," and the other guy shoots him to death, and that's the end of him.
Yeah. It would have been great if Gut had like gone and like pushed that guy out the window. Like he had like thrown him and himself out of the window, and he died too, but like he, you know, saved a hostage or something, or saved Stone from being shot. You know, like anything to show that he had some sort of arc and realized that he had been with the bad guys the whole time. But no, he just gets shot dead for nothing. That guy does have the biker at the window, though, does get shot out the window and has a very impressive fall into a car hood, which looked like it hurt the stuntman.
It's pretty impressive. I mean, the most impressive scene is coming next, which I did not see coming. Because like when he got out of the helicopter, I thought, that's weird. Helicopter's still out there. Like he didn't take out the helicopter with him. Why would that be? Well, there's a reason.
Yeah, of course there's a reason. So he I think this is where Chains is on the back of a bike of one of the other bikers, and they come to a hallway and they find Stone there, and he has like a grenade launcher or a shotgun or whatever it is. And Chains hops off and he's like, fuck this guy up. And it's like, what's he planning to do? He has a gun and he's going to ride a motorcycle at him. Like he's clearly going to get shot. And the guy revs up and drives towards him, and Stone, of course, shoots him off the motorcycle, and the motorcycle goes out the window and into the helicopter, which then explodes.
Like, this would be good in any movie.
Yes.
There's literally not a movie where this would happen, where it would not be good, where you shoot a guy off a motorcycle, he's dead, the motorcycle keeps going, goes out the window, into a helicopter, and both explode. That is... There's literally not a movie that you could add that to. Dramatic, comedy, historical, a documentary, anything. You know, a Sesame Street movie, anything would be improved with this scene.
I loved that John Adams miniseries, but my favorite part was when John Adams sent that motorcycle into the helicopter.
I mean, if that happened in John Adams, that is what you would say.
So he and Chains have their kind of final fight. We already alluded to it with him trying to be sinister. Welcome to my slaughterhouse, and immediately getting knocked out and thrown down on the ground
and punched downstairs.
Yeah. And so everything is kind of wrapping up, and they've got Chains in custody. And he struggles and grabs a gun from one of the cops, and then Lance shows up and blasts him away, and he goes flying off of a balcony down to the ground below.
He comically falls off the balcony.
Yes, it's pretty good. And he's dead, and then Stone just kind of. We get some guitar licks as Stone walks down the steps of the Capitol building as people try to interview him, and he refuses to answer, and the credits roll, and he just keeps walking.
He just keeps walking
and keeps walking, and then it freeze frames on him standing there, and the movie is over.
I just wrote, he walks out from a bloody historical slaughter that history would never forget. But, maybe they would.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting.
I can't believe the bad guy just went in there and he killed everybody.
Yeah, I mean, he won. The bad guy won. He just got defeated after he had won. Like he achieved his mission. He just didn't get to enjoy the fact that he achieved it.
And he never would have. Based on
he never would have. He would have died immediately.
Name one person that John Stone saved.
Because
Lance saves him.
Lance saves him. Yeah, he literally fails miserably. If we're not counting the people at the beginning of the movie, and maybe that's why they added that scene, because they realized, wow, our hero lets everyone die. We have to give him at least one win at the beginning of the movie.
He's not even the one who kills Chains.
No, yeah, he doesn't do anything effectively.
Like Ice dies by mistake.
Yeah, that is true. Like he would have stopped Ice probably, and again, stop Ice. he would have done that, but like I think probably wouldn't have necessarily resulted in his death. But yeah, Ice mistakenly runs into something, and so that's why he dies.
It's a quandary that you would write this like this, because you almost never would. Like, it feels like a mistake. Like they didn't even mean to. But then his weird walk at the end, where he just walks away, and everyone's trying to interview him, and there's like people like looking on in horror over what's happened, and he's covered in blood, and he just keeps walking, and he keeps walking, and he keeps walking. When you would have went to credits like 30 seconds earlier. I wonder if they realize, like, okay, we've ended the movie where he's kind of failed. Let's just kind of linger on him, like, not being victorious.
Let's swim in his failure.
Yeah, because he doesn't accomplish anything. All the Supreme Court of Mississippi is dead. He didn't stop any of it. He didn't even show up until like they were already long dead.
Yeah, he failed pretty miserably, I think.
And I don't expect one man to stop something like that. That's an awful thing to expect of anybody. But what an odd thing to put to film.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild way to do this movie.
It amazes me that this film came out theatrically. Because it's so a direct-to-video movie plot and ridiculousness and broadly done, but it kind of predates that.
Yeah, so you're right. It kind of does.
They brought us to theater, and it just does not feel like a real movie at times.
I think that's kind of why I like connected with it so much, because it is so incredibly stupid, but yet it has
a motorcycle
actors in it
going out a window into a helicopter.
Yes, it has that, but it also has, again, the actors who are good in other things and who are giving it their all here. And you've got the big goofy dumbness of Brian Bosworth and just how like just absolutely goofy and ridiculous he looks. And there's just so much about it that is just so over the top and silly. And it feels like you're right, it feels very much like a direct-to-video movie, and yet it just happened to come out in an era where those were happening, but not probably as frequently, and
not for $25 million in 1991 dollars.
Exactly. They weren't putting this out for nobody. They spent this money on it. It came from a studio. They're going to put it into theaters. So I don't know.
So I want to say, like, if I had watched this in 98 through 2006, for sure I would have really enjoyed it, like you would have. I also want to mention that I have watched this film now, and I have not watched Titanic or the Matrix trilogy.
And we're going to keep it that way.
And as far as I know, this is better than those.
Well, I think that's the perfect place to wrap up this episode on Stone Cold. Thanks to you Patreon supporters for picking this for us. It gave us a chance to have a nice conversation up top about the state of the world that we're in and just how things are going. And maybe if things were a little different, we probably wouldn't have covered this movie. And I think maybe in the future we probably will steer clear of things that glorify the police. Probably for quite some time. We'll need some distance before we can talk about those things comfortably, I think. But this is a gleefully dumb movie, and I can kind of give it a slight pass only because of that. Because of how stupid it is. It's
so like the plot of this police officer who's so much better than regular police because he's violent. He fails. So like,
yeah, maybe that is the fun joke of the movie, is that this guy who is suspended because he's a bad police officer is still a bad police officer at the end of the movie.
The FBI put their chips in the wrong card. They should have picked somebody else who wasn't suspended.
Yeah, I think that is maybe that's what they're trying to say. I doubt it. But
I doubt it, but at least they've written it so incompetently that it's exactly what it did say.
All right. Well, I think we can wrap this up. I've been One Eye.
I've been Double Gut.
And we predict you'll join us. Thanks for being a Patreon supporter as always and making this show happen. Stay safe out there.
I was going to call myself Neck Gut, but I thought that was a little too visceral.